Mike and the mechanics.
This is funny. This is supposed to mean something?
Well, Trump needs a miracle. I'm not even sure that'll help, but that's, at the very least, that's what Ed Rollins told you, right? He needs a miracle, is that right?
That's what he told me last night. He has been making the rounds saying that as well on various media venues. And, well, things are not looking good. The chips are down.
Yeah.
But I ain't waving the white flag
No, you're not.
yet.
No, you're courageous. We are back here, hour number 2.
I mean, why give up now? What the hell?
I remember talking to Marv Albert after our fight, and hour number 2 of the Bernie and Sid show on 77 WABC. And he came on my show in Florida. And he said, yeah, I remember it well. It was Don Imus production, Bernard McGurk versus Sid Rosenberg. And, you took a pretty good beating that night, And I said, well, yeah, but, Mike Breen said after the fight that was very courageous. And my answer to Mike Breen was, well, maybe, but it was also stupid. And Marv Albert's answer was, yes, a combination of both.
Okay.
And that's how I would describe Trump supporters who are not waving the white flag because they're loyal, they're courageous.
Well, what's the option? To give up? Why?
There's no reason to.
Why give up until the fight's over?
That's right.
I mean, it'd just be stupid, futile, and
Agreed.
Listen, we have a guest on the line right now, a very amusing, witty guy. The Fox News. He's a Fox News digital politics editor. He also has a show with Dana Perino.
We love Dana
on Fox News on the weekends called "I'll Tell You What." This guy's he's been all over the place. He's very funny, very smart guy. Chris Stirewalt, thank you for coming on the Bernie and Sid show.
You guys' expectations way too high. I needed the wit, the humor. I can't deliver on that. You need to.
You see, he's humble too. On top of it all, he's humble. I love that. I love this guy,
and he's smart. That's what you got to do. You got to make it lower the expectations. It's kind of like what it's kind of like, Chris, and Bernard's not going to like this, but after the second debate, Trump supporters were going nuts. He was absolutely tremendous. He was spectacular. He was stellar. No, he wasn't. He can never be that good on a debate stage because he's just not prepared. He's got some cute one-liners and all that nonsense. He can never be great on a debate stage. But when your expectations are low and you just want to keep your campaign alive, you use those adjectives to describe what basically was an okay performance. Does that make sense?
Okay. Expectations have everything to do with debates. Everything to do with debate.
That's right.
And Trump, coming into the second debate, had low expectations because people said, boy, the first debate didn't go so hot, and how's it going to be? So he did beat expectations. And a lot of Republicans were really pleased with his performance because he did something that they had wanted somebody to do for 25 years, which was stick it right in Hillary Clinton's face, attack her, brutal, savage, relentless attacks on her about her husband's misconduct with women, about Benghazi, about blah, blah, and just attack. And you talk to Republicans after the debate, they were super satisfied. They said, yeah, that's great. And then you look at the polls. And what did it do to the race? What did it do for Trump in the race?
Nothing.
And a win in a debate, who cares about winning the debate? You want to win the election. What Donald Trump needs tonight is to surprise. He's going to have tough with Chris Wallace doing the questions. He's not going to be able to slide by with just jokes and repartee. He's going to have substantive answers. So he can surprise in that way. And the other way that he can surprise is to show humility, to show kindness, to be a nice guy, and maybe be a little sorry and maybe connect with some voters.
Now, Chris Stirewalt on the Bernie and Sid show, Ed Rollins, the famed political analyst, he's going around saying that it takes a miracle. It will take a miracle for Trump to win. But Fox News has Donald Trump down just 6 points nationally after a horrific 2 weeks. And, of course, Trump's going around citing Brexit. And things could happen. God forbid a terror attack, or, God forbid, horrible things. So it really is not over at this point, or is it?
Well, okay. So every day you get closer to the election, there are fewer and fewer available voters. People make up their minds. They get set. So here we are, we're 3 weeks away. Where were we 3 weeks ago? The race was close. It was almost tied. A lot was possible, right? We were down at a 1.5 or 2 point margin on an average of polls. Now that's like 7 or 8 points. So that we had that much swing in the course of 3 weeks. Could we have a similar swing in the last 3 weeks? Yeah, it's possible. It's harder to do, but it's definitely possible.
I would ask you this. It looks like he's going to lose. It's possible, sure. And like Bernard said, something could happen, God forbid, to her or something to the country. Sure, that can change the whole. But really, there's nothing really out of the crazy that can happen where he's going to win. There really is nothing, if you're going to be honest about this. So with that said, if in fact he does lose, Chris, his supporters will say, well, he lost because of the media. He lost because of the media bias. He lost because, like he's been saying, the election is rigged. I'll say this, and I'm obviously endorsing Hillary. I thought he had a chance to win this. And I think he handled himself so poorly. He never got better with substance. He's had the same 3 core points for 19 months. He's never really prepared himself for this job. And in my estimation, if he does lose this, he lost this. Not the rigged election, the media. And I agree there is a media bias against him. But I think if he loses, he's the reason why he lost. What do you think?
So the worst thing that I can really imagine for the country coming out of this election is that Donald Trump loses narrowly, right? He loses by a half a point. He loses by 10,000 votes in Florida. And that he continues the charge that the election is wrong, that it was stolen, right? And then we go, he says they're going to steal the election. Now, when you're 10 points back in Pennsylvania, they don't have to steal any elections in Philadelphia, right? You're just losing. So if it's a close election and it's embittering and he does not accept the result and his supporters don't accept the result, this starts to become a crisis.
True.
So that's there. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're going to have a decisive election. I think it's going to be clear. And then we have a serious question. And, I wrote this the other day, which is Hillary Clinton is closing her campaign with an argument. Her closing argument is that Donald Trump is a lech and a creep. That means that she's failed as a candidate. Now, he's failed more, not as much as him. She hasn't failed as much as him. Failed as a candidate, too, because she hasn't articulated a vision to govern on. And so we are walking into a situation where the front runner in this race right now doesn't have a platform other than not being the other guy.
Right. That's her whole strategy, is to attack Donald Trump. That's it. And so, Chris Stirewalt, by the way, the show is called I'll Tell You What. It's on the weekends. It's a very enjoyable show. And there's a podcast by the same name. In fact, that's how it started.
That's the truth. And somehow Fox thought it would be a good idea to give us a show. And fortunately, it's with Dana Perino, and everything she does is lovely and amazing.
It really is. She must be fun to work with. Brilliant girl. Former Bush spokesperson, Dana Perino, and Chris Stirewalt. I'll Tell You What on the weekends. Check it out. But listen, again, her strategy is just to attack Trump. So, being the astute political analyst that you are, and I can't decipher who you're supporting because you hold it close to your vest, whatever it is. I don't think you like Trump, but who's better on the issues? I mean, on Muslim immigration, Syrian refugees, open borders, Obamacare. Who does Chris Stirewalt think is better on the issues?
I don't care.
Why not? You're a citizen.
That's the voter's job. My job is I'm the weatherman. I can tell you when the hurricane's coming. I'm not rooting for the hurricane, but I just tell you how it goes. And I try to keep myself out of it as much as I possibly can because it would affect my analysis. And especially when you're in close races, if you are not diligent as an analyst, I got to deal with the facts and I got to deal with the numbers. If you're not diligent, you can let your own feelings slip in and affect the outcome of your analysis. So sure. I got to stay clean.
Sure. Plus the fact you want as many people watching you and Dana as possible, and if I'm endorsing Hillary and I find out you like Trump, I may or may not, it depends how mature I am, watch your telecast. You don't want to take that chance. I understand that. I would say this. I would say this, Chris. In a bigger picture here, okay? Right. And I keep going to Trump losing because, again, outside of a miracle, I agree with Ed Rollins. He can't win this. He cannot win. So with that said, there's a lot at stake here for the GOP. Sure. You're talking about the House. You're talking about the Senate. You're talking about the future of the party. I mean, this will be now 12 years, basically, of Democratic rule, and it may even get to the House and the Senate. A Trump loss, and maybe even a bad loss in a couple of weeks, what does that mean for the future of the GOP?
So do you remember 1988?
Yeah.
1988, the Democratic Party lost its third consecutive election and was in tatters. Michael Dukakis got destroyed, lost 40 states. The party was, what's the point of the Democratic Party? No one would have guessed. They were just 4 years away from a Democratic renaissance that they hadn't seen since FDR. right? That Bill Clinton and the New Democrats and that thing was about to happen, and that they beat George H.W. Bush, serve 2 terms, and leave office with high approval. Nobody saw that in 1988. In politics, the same thing happens over and over and over again, which is you have to get all the way down sometimes to start to back up. And that's how it is for us in life, but it's definitely how it is for political parties. In 1988, Democrats weren't ready. They couldn't handle it. They nominated the wrong person. They blew up. They lost a generationally good chance to take the White House, and they screwed up. They learned their lesson, and they came back in 4 years. The Republicans learned their lesson in 1996, and they came back in 2000, and they won. So it happens. And as James Carville says, and it's very true, you are never as far down as you think you are, and you're never as far up as you think you are.
And what you just said, Chris Stirewalt, is on the Bernie and Sid show, and which is what I'm hearing, which is why Trump supporters are so furious, is that a lot of these never Trumper people, Mitt Romney and even Paul Ryan, they're thinking ahead. They're saying, let Hillary win. They're thinking ahead to 2020. They won't say it, but that's exactly what their plan is, to allow Hillary to get in, who will, by the way, pick probably 4 Supreme Court justices. And in 2020, I wouldn't count on a Republican getting her being the incumbent, getting that. But that's what makes Trump supporters so furious, is what the analysis you just gave us.
Well, the Trump supporters are going to be furious about a lot of stuff. If the polls hold, if the trajectory of this race doesn't change starting tonight, if he doesn't find a new gear and a new register that he can deal in starting tonight, if this is what it looks like, and that's a loss about the size of 1988. If that's what happens, then the Trump supporters are going to be angry at a lot of people, and the Republicans are going to be angry with each other. Conservatives are going to be angry at Trump people, never Trumpers, and all of this stuff. This is an ugly fight that has to take place. But I would say that it's like a family, and a political party has to have these things out from time to time, right? Consensus can build, and you can have it, and everybody can deal with it. But then every so often, you've got to have it out. And the Republicans just have to have it out. They have to fight this out, and they also have to see who are the people who rise, right? What rises up out of this turmoil, and what's the vision? And the vision for the Republicans in the future has to include some of Trump's populism and some of his positions when it comes to immigration and national security. There are good message points there for Republicans who have struggled in recent elections, especially with Romney, with blue-collar voters, right? Regular Joe Sixpack voters who they need. They struggled with them. Trump connects with those voters. The Republicans need to find a way to that message, but then do it in a way that lets them have a conversation with suburban voters, especially women, so you don't lose an election by 8 points.
All right, Chris, 60 seconds we got to run. 2 quick answers I need from you. One of them, do you believe Trump supporters are banking on this Brexit deal, that they're so stigmatized or afraid to tell you they're voting for Donald Trump? Do you believe there's a legitimate amount of those that can get him the win? Yes or no?
No.
Okay, either do I. It's nonsense. Secondly, it's complete nonsense. With that said, these are both candidates that nobody likes. I mean, I hate to say it, but they're both unlikable. So with that said, right. So do you think, Chris, that a lot of folks will stay home Election Day because they don't like Hillary or Donald?
Well, I think that a lot of folks are terrified of this election and terrified of the outcome. And the country is sad right now that some horrible thing's going to happen. What I want to say is this. Here's my bias. My bias is this is going to be okay. This is my personal belief. This is going to be okay. This election's going to be okay. This country's going to be okay. It's all going to be fine. But the reason I think that you're going to see pretty substantial voter turnout is that people are terrified that it won't. They're horrified of the other person. They're horrified of the other party, and they believe that America is circling the drain, and this makes all the difference. And I want to tell them it's not so. This country is okay because America is not its politics. It's not its politicians. America is Americans.
You see, Chris Stirewalt, we had, high expectations from the start, and they were met.
Oh,
they
my
were met
God.
by you. And listen, let me ask you this. A final question. You're from the South. You're a funny, witty guy, a very, very happy guy. You live in New York City. How do you like where are you from in the South?
I'm not from the South. I'm from West Virginia. I'm a hillbilly.
Oh, okay.
Okay. How do you like the big city?
I live in Washington. I come
you do?
to New York to do, I'll tell you, with Dana Perino, and I noticed that everything is smaller and more expensive.
Yeah, but I mean, listen, for a mountaineer to go to even Washington is a big deal, even if it's not New York. I mean, Washington compared to West Virginia is night and day.
I know, and you're talking to somebody who grew up on the North Fork of Short Creek in Ohio County, West Virginia.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so it is different, but it is lovely, especially because I get to work with the people at Fox News, people like Chris Wallace, and who's going to do a fantastic job at the debate tonight with Brett Baer, with Greg Hume, with Dana Perino, with Megyn Kelly. So I work with the best people, and I love what I do.
Hey,
Awesome.
Listen, Chris Stirewalt, the show is I'll Tell You What with Dana Perino. It runs on the weekends on Fox News, 5 p.m., usually on Sundays. Check your local listings. Chris Stirewalt, thank you for appearing with Bernie and
You
Sid.
were great. Thank you, Chris.
Y'all have a great day.
You too. Great job.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah. They see that was the West Virginia right there at the very end.
There you have it.
Y'all.
Good guy,
He
smart
said
guy.
y'all.
Y'all.
Y'all, yeah.
You're not me?
Yeah, no.
We're back. Bernie and Sid.